I think the Brewers made a surprise to me of who they sent down to start the season in AAA and who made the team. We'll get to that coming up next. And imperative, I feel the Brewers need to get off to a solid start again. All that and more. Hunter Baumgardt from 97.3 The Game joins us.
You are Locked On Brewers, your daily Milwaukee Brewers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Surprised that Andruw Monasterio, at least for now, is going to start the year in AAA. He did have an option. We'll get to that coming up. And the Brewers, I really think they got to get off to a good start. There's no doubt about it. They have to get off to a good start. I say that every year, but I really think more imperative right now. We'll talk to Hunter Baumgartner coming up just in a second here. Today's episode brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. All right, Hunter Baumgardt joining us. Haven't talked to him since early January. Man, it just seems like the other day, but I look back and I was like, it's been 2.5 months since HB's been on the show. Got to get him back on again. Hunter, thanks for making some time here on a Wednesday.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. And when, back then it's like, what are we going to talk about sometimes, right? It's January, but you're always coming up with stuff. But then now it's like, there's so much that you can discuss about this team right now, heading into the last week of camp.
Really is. Before we get to those roster moves, I think it's really important to get off to a fast start. Remember last year they went into New York and they swept the Mets. And I know it's a 162 game schedule and it's a marathon, but I think one of the keys last year, HB, is that they played in front. They started the season out in front and never really looked back.
Well, that as Pat Murphy said in the celebration, when they were clinching the NL Central, they led wire to wire. And so I think getting off to a fast start is big. If you think the Cubs are your biggest competitor in this division, just look at their schedule. They got the Diamondbacks twice. They got the Dodgers 2 more times, even though they already lost 2 in Tokyo this week. So they've got those 2. They've got the Phillies. They've got the Padres. They have a really, really tough April. So if you can somehow weather this injury storm, because it seems like possibly out of the entire season, April might serve as they might be the most banged up in April compared to any other month this season. But if you can somehow weather that storm, get some good pitching from some of the guys maybe you weren't expecting to be in that rotation, and get hot, your schedule looks a lot better in April than it does for the Cubs.
How cool is it that the Brewers are going to start the season, have not played a game yet? They already got a lead on the Cubs in the division.
I know. It's awesome. I mean, it's like, what a great couple of days, what a great couple of days. They went over to Tokyo and, they got a couple of losses. I mean, as a Brewer fan, you're like, yeah, that's exactly what we wanted. So yeah, 0-2, it looks good in the bottom of that division.
Now, if the Cubs start off and they lose 90 games this year and we're chasing the Dodgers for home field advantage in the postseason, maybe I might look back at it differently, but I'm trying to win the division, first of all. HB, I have them winning the division. Hunter, I think that they are still the best team, and I've said this on a few shows that until they've proved me otherwise, they're still the best team in this NL Central.
Yeah, I mean they're trying to win it, for the 3rd straight year. I think when I look at this division, nobody got like a lot better. I think the Cubs got better. I think getting Kyle Tucker on your team and the help they got to that bullpen, because the bullpen has been what is kind of hindered them, especially last year. I think it helped, but again, the Brewers are always going to come into the year as an underdog. And so when you look at this team, a ton of that lineup, most of that lineup, if not all of that lineup, is coming back. And you add Rhys Hoskins, a year removed now from that ACL injury. You have Christian Yelich coming back after the back injury last year and the surgery, and he looks really good in camp so far. Just his swing, you can just tell he's free in his swing, and he just looks less. It just looks less complicated up there. I don't know if that's that's the best way I can describe it. So you have that lineup. And then honestly, the starting rotation to me looks better than it did last year. Now you have the injuries, and that's going to be the thing. Can they weather the storm? But this team almost always weathers the storm. It's who's going to step up, and they always have guys that you don't think about. Maybe it's a Tyler Alexander. Maybe it's a guy like Elvin Rodriguez. Maybe it's a Connor Thomas. I mean, these different guys. Who is it going to be this year? I think we're going to find out maybe in the first week of the season, because they're going to need a couple of starters when they come home to face Kansas City. But if they can weather that storm and get to May, get to June, and get DL Hall back, get Aaron Ashby back, eventually get Brandon Woodruff back as well, you're going to be sitting really good. Freddie Peralta, when we talked to him when we were in Arizona, was like, I really like how this starting rotation looks. Now, obviously, that was before Tobias Myers' injury, and again, a name I didn't mention there, and hopefully he'll be back by the end of April. But if you look at it compared to last year, I really like that starting rotation when Tobias Myers is in it. And then who knows, obviously, after that. And Quintana's going to be a part of it, obviously, coming up probably in the first week or two of the season.
Hunter rubbing it in that he went to Arizona and I didn't. Thanks, Hunter.
Sorry to drop that on you.
Maybe next year, but always going down there. It's always fun. Hunter, the roster move the Brewers made today. I said on yesterday's podcast, I said I didn't think Andruw Monasterio had any shot at going down to AAA. I know he's had the option. I really thought Durbin was going to start the year at AAA. And Monasterio would be on this roster because he could do a little bit of everything on this team.
Yeah, he can. And he's shown that he can do it at the major league level. Oliver Dunn showed a little bit, but then he got hurt last year. Obviously, Caleb Durbin is yet to make his major league debut. Vinny Capra has not been able to do it, at the major league level yet, although he's having a really good spring, and that could earn him a roster spot and likely will. But it's the combination of Oliver Dunn and Caleb Durbin are two guys Pat Murphy really likes. I think this organization really likes. And they've had good springs. They're both hitting, 333, 341. They're right in there when it comes to their batting averages, Dunn and Capra. And then Durbin's been in that mix as well at times. And Monasterio also had a really good spring as well, and hitting around 400. So you kind of thought, okay, would that play his way onto the roster? But it kind of seems like they want to give Oliver Dunn a shot. They probably want to give Caleb Durbin a shot. And if you get rid of Vinny Capra, he's probably going to leave, and a team is probably going to pick him up, or somehow you're going to get him to AAA, but he would have to go through waivers because he has no option. So I feel like all of that combined kind of squeezed Monasterio out and put him at AAA for now.
There is such an infatuation out there with Vinny Capra everywhere. A year ago, did we even care about Vinny Capra?
Yeah, it's the Eric Haas of last year, right? And Eric Haas and then he made it to the minor leagues, and then eventually he came up, and he was part of the team and had some moments over the last few months of the season when Gary Sanchez went down, and then they kept three catchers on the roster, which we didn't necessarily think was going to be the case. Mm-hmm. And they like him, and now he's the backup. There's always one guy in spring training, and this year obviously it is Vinny Capra. Do I think he's going to burst onto the scene too at the major league level? In the regular season, probably not. Is he going to get a majority of the time on the field? Probably not. You're going to see probably Dunn and Durbin mostly at third, and maybe Vinny Capra on a day Joey Ortiz needs off. It's going to be, I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time, which might hurt him because he's getting so much consistent playing time in spring because they need the innings. And that's, that can help guys. So you wonder if maybe that's going to hurt him come the regular season.
What other roster spot, which I thought this guy was making the team. I was like, how can you not keep him on the team? That's Craig Yoho. I mean, you saw him down in spring training. Yeah. I mean, he's been on TV as well. I've seen him up here, and just the break on his pitch, that's major league stuff right there. I know they got a stacked bullpen, but Craig Yoho, I think he'll see some time up here, but I thought he'd make the roster.
Yeah, I think there just might be the 40-man roster. They'd have to get, someone off the 40-man if they're going to put him on it. I think it might be kind of just more maneuvering there, with the options. I mean, this team has that flight from Milwaukee to Nashville is very busy throughout the season. And so I think, the roster on day one maybe isn't the roster on game two. Like this is going to be, they used about 60 players last year, 17 starting pitchers, 12 guys saved games. I think it's going to be a lot of the same this year. And they're going to, just because a guy like a Monasterio, like a Yoho starts in the minor leagues, does not mean that they're not going to be up even within a week or two of the season. Yoho, though, I'll tell you, that guy is impressive. And they're building him up as a reliever right now. Mm-hmm. And we'll see what, obviously what McGill does in the closer role. I have no reason to believe he won't do well. I mean, he did really well last year, 21 out of 24. He was 18 for 20 while Devin was down. He did really well last year. But Craig Yoho has that stuff that you want in a guy in the ninth inning. And I feel like he could be the next Devin Williams. Now, do they bring him up? A lot of these guys that we've seen, Josh Haders, Corey Knable, the list goes on Devin Williams. A lot of them start in that 6th, 7th, 8th inning role, and then eventually they get to that 9th inning role when they're ready. And Pat Murphy said today, he talked about how he just wanted, Yoho to just get some more experience. And that's the thing. Like, the guy's only pitched, I think it's 14 and like 2/3, 1/3 inning at AAA. I mean, that's really low. And so you want him to get a little more experience. And then I do see him at the major league level at some point this year. And Brewers fans, get ready, because that guy can pitch.
Hunter, I've seen enough of him where I'm like, man, I want that guy on the team.
Yeah, me too. And they're, I think, it might be throwing him into the fire a little bit if you put him on that opening day roster. But boy, give him a month in Nashville at the most, maybe, and get him on up here.
All right, we'll take a look at the starting infield. What Hunter thinks about that. We'll talk about that. What the starting infield looks like as of right now, 8 days away from the starting point of the season. Chuck Freimund here, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Good to have you along here. We'll talk a little bit later on in the podcast before we check out about all the different methods you get Locked On Brewers. Hey, we got a great new sponsor, Just Ingredients, man. They something else, man. Especially if you're into working out like I am. I want to fuel my body. Quality matters. You always want to put quality into your body, and Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers NSF certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested. And a guy like Bryce Harper swears by this. They're his partner. He's a 2-time MVP, and you see how good he looks, Bryce Harper. He trusts in the NSF certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Clean, transparent ingredients, the fueling performance. Well, grass-fed whey protein and pre-workouts deliver real results, and it's all good for you, and it's all clean, and it's all quality stuff, and it's going to help you in health and in workouts get your peak performance. Check them out. If you're watching us on YouTube, look at the banner right there, Just Ingredients. Use the code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, go to their spot on Instagram, just.ingredients. But check them out. Trust me, I got 2 big bags here. I'm going to bring them on tomorrow. I'll show you what they're all about. But the protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, creatine, all good stuff for your body. Just Ingredients, changing the game with clean, high-quality products. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. Part of Locked On Podcast Network, we are your team every day. Hunter Baumgardt joining us here from 97.3 The Game. Covers the Brewers on a regular basis on their baseball post-game show, along with Tim Allen and Pipe Bomb. I assume those are the 3 that are coming back for you guys.
We're
again.
back. Better than ever. You bet.
That's a dream team, man. You can't break up that tradition right there.
Nope.
Like I said, why repair a broken wheel or why break a wheel? I don't know how that works. But
It is, right. Just a wheel and just make
something
it good.
That works pretty good. This infield, I think, works pretty good. But who would have said a year ago, Hunter, that Oliver Dunn would be, well, when you look at the depth chart for the Brewers, Oliver Dunn would be your starting third baseman as of right now, assuming he's going to be in there against right-handers, although they're facing a couple left-handers to start off. Dunn at third base, Ortiz at short, Turang at second, Hoskins at first. That'll be fluid, but that technically is your starting lineup right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think Dunn's won that third base job, and the guy made the opening day roster from Double-A last year. I mean, he skipped a whole level of the minor league system.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, then he went down and then he got injured. So we didn't see much of him last year after that first burst in the first month. But I'm excited to see him. I mean, Pat Murphy is a big fan, and he's called him, one of the more talented guys on that team, and he's got talent in there. And there's a reason he jumped from Double-A up to the majors. And so I'm excited to see what he can do. I mean, he he did well this spring, 341 average. That's pretty good. I know it's spring training numbers. They're maybe a little inflated, but you hit 341 for a reason. He's made some good plays. And I think he is a really good defender over there at third base. We know how much the Brewers value defense. So I do think that Oliver Dunn not only won the third base job, but I'm looking forward to that. The rest of the infield is interesting. I mean, that was wild. I mean, we were Monday, and I mean, just 2 days ago, it seemed pretty sure that Bryce Terang was going to be the starting shortstop for this team. And that was a switch, because about 7 days ago, we thought Joey Ortiz was going to be the shortstop. Yeah. And then a couple days later, the new idea emerged of Joey Ortiz at second and Bryce Terang at short. And from what Pat Murphy has said and what it sounds like, boy, they were just like, whoa, Bryce Terang at shortstop. Like, they put him over there and we're like, oh, maybe this is what's supposed to be. Well, his shoulder acts up. All of a sudden, he's got the shoulder injury with that longer throw from short. And people say, well, it's not that. It is longer. And especially when your arm is so specifically trained for that second base position like he has been, I think that was just kind of a shock to the system. The shoulder didn't take it well. So they're like, let's not mess with it. Joey Ortiz is a more than capable shortstop. And so they'll go with that. And I honestly, whoever's where, I just love that middle infield, because I think you have a really good two defenders there.
Oh, I do too. I just find it bizarre that they've been around Terang for this long, for a couple of years now, through spring trainings, and they wait till like toward the end of spring training to figure out, well, maybe we got to put Terang over at shortstop. I mean, that just doesn't sound right.
It was weird. I mean, it just came out of it. Really, it felt like it just came out of left field. Like they put him over there, and there's been a little bit of discussion, but boy, there's just not been a lot of wavering. I mean, they never said Joey Ortiz was the starting shortstop. Like, they never actually came out and said it. But you could tell what the trend was in spring training, and you could tell who was getting the majority of the reps at shortstop. And then over the last weekend, that Friday, Saturday, Sunday, last weekend or so, maybe it was Thursday, Friday, whatever it was, late last week, all of a sudden that switched, and Bryce was getting a lot of the time over there at short. And I think that opened some eyes, honestly, which is wild, because you could see that he was a shortstop, and he's a natural shortstop. But that opened some eyes. They thought to do it, and if he doesn't get hurt, I think we're sitting here talking about Bryce Terang as your opening day shortstop. But he got hurt, and you don't want to risk it with that guy. Whether he's at second or short, you need that guy on the field. So that's the most important thing.
Back to the third base spot, you're seeing Durbin over there as the right-handed option. He didn't show anything really in camp.
Yeah, I mean, Durbin's, it's an interesting, I mean, I think he's more natural second base than anything. When you look at short, when you look at third, could be third base, probably a little bit more than short, maybe. I think he can probably play anywhere. Pat Murphy kind of, praised him in that way today. Like, you can just tell that this guy's got it. This guy knows what he's about, knows what he's doing. He's going to make big plays wherever he is. And that was what Pat Murphy was saying today. But I think, the experience level with him worries you a little bit, because he doesn't have major league experience yet. You got him for Devin Williams, so you immediately think impact to the major league club. It's not necessarily the case. But again, we saw what Joey Ortiz did last year. He was burst onto the scene and did pretty well. Hitting wise was up and down. I expect that from Durbin. But I think you'll see good defense out of Durbin, and we'll see if he gets any consistent playing time.
All right, one more segment with Hunter Baumgardt. We'll ask what he thinks about the back end of that Brewers rotation, and is that rotation good enough to take him to another NL Central title? We'll get to that coming up next. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day. Gametime brings you to this episode. Gametime. I'm looking for tickets on Gametime. I got my eyes on some Darrell Hall tickets for the Genesee Theater down in Illinois. Been monitoring them, looking for a little price drop here in the next couple of weeks. Concert's not to the beginning of April, but there's nothing better than catching an MLB game live. And that's where I get my tickets for Major League Baseball. My kid loves like visiting teams that the Brewers play for some reason. I don't know where he got that from, but we always get last minute deals, all in pricing, lowest price guaranteed, all on Gametime. And you watch those tickets drop on game day, Gametime. Those tickets just start dropping, and that's when you jump in. That's when I always jump in. So whether you're you want to get your tickets in advance or maybe wait to the last second, Gametime is the place to go. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use that promo code LOCKEDONMLB. When you use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Let's say you pay $70 for tickets or $100, you're going to get $20 off your purchase. So download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Like I said, whether you're going to concerts, theater, comedy shows, sporting events, Bucks games, Brewers games, of course, all there. And all you got to do is click on where you want to sit, and the price comes up, and you're going to say, hey, whether you want that seat or not, you could purchase it right then. But again, most importantly, create the account, use the promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase with Gametime. Show's also brought to you by Wonderful Pistachios. Wonderful Pistachios, man. Just the way to go. Wonderful Pistachios. Because I'm telling you what, like when I work out, I've been saying this for a while. When I work out, I like to have the yogurt wait for me at home when I'm done working out. And what I do is that fat-free yogurt, I just load up with the pistachios, the Wonderful Pistachios, one of the highest protein nuts out there. You want protein, and each 1 ounce of Wonderful Pistachios has 6 grams of protein. So that gives you over 10% of your daily value. Plus, they're packed with fiber, which is better for you. The unsaturated fats keeps you feeling fuller longer, so you don't have to run back to the refrigerator a couple of hours later. The no shells variety, well, that's a perfect mix in the Freimund household. Everybody likes that for that perfect grab and go. You just grab some of the no shells variety, and you are off to the races. Get snackin, get crackin with a snack that packs a protein punch. Visit wonderfulpistachios.com, wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. And as I said, you put those in your yogurt, you mix that up a little bit and maybe put some berries in there and the Wonderful Pistachios, and man, you are going to be full until you have dinner a little bit later on in the night. But it's a great afternoon snack. Goes over well in the Freimund household. Wonderful Pistachios. Visit them, wonderfulpistachios.com to learn more. Chuck Freimund here on Locked On Brewers. Our guest, Hunter Baumgardt from 97.3 The Game, and of course, the baseball post-game show after every game on 97.3 The Game. And Hunter's out at the ballpark covering the game and the teams. Hunter, the back end of that rotation, who's going to start on opening day? That number 4 and 5 spots seem to be open right now. Quintana's not going to do it. Who's going to be that guy?
I was just thinking about that. Before Tobias Myers got injured and before we realized Quintana's probably not going to be ready for that series, was thinking, well, last year, the home opener was Jacob Junis. He started last year. And I'm thinking to myself,
that's right.
If you're starting Savale or if you're starting Quintana, if you're starting Myers, whoever, Nestor Cortez, whoever it was, I'm like, that's probably a little bit of a step up from Jacob Junis. Nothing against Junis, but the name especially when it comes to a Nestor Cortez or a guy like Aaron Savale who's been around and started for a while. I think this is going to be fascinating. I think you're either going to see, it really doesn't look like Quintana. Maybe that series, but probably more so the Red Series is where you can see Quintana. So what we'd probably be looking at is Elvin Rodriguez or Tyler Alexander. Tyler Alexander was kind of signed as that swing man, that guy that can go in the bullpen or the starting rotation, that Bryce Wilson type of guy. I feel like he's probably the leader right now. The problem is Elvin Rodriguez's last time out, 3 2/3 with 4 earned runs, 6 hits. Tyler Alexander, last time out, 4 innings, 5 earned runs. And then if you say, well, what about Logan Henderson? Bringing him up from the minor leagues, 3 innings, 4 earned runs his last time out. So all 3 of these guys had an opportunity here to kind of take the reins. Mm-hmm. None of them did. Pat Murphy saying that, he wasn't too worried about Tyler Alexander, saying, he'll be fine. He said Elvin also did some good things, and saying there's something to work with when it comes to Elvin Rodriguez. So I feel like it's one of those two. And if I were to guess, it'd be Alexander, but that's only Monday. And then all of a sudden we're to Tuesday and you still need another guy. And so you might see Alexander and Rodriguez start here 4 and 5. And it doesn't sound like Freddie Peralta is going to, go any shorter. It sounds like you're just going to go, Freddie on Thursday, Nestor on Saturday, Savali on Sunday, probably Alexander on Monday, and then Alvin Rodriguez possibly on Tuesday before Freddie again on Wednesday.
If I'm Freddie, I'd want to start the home opener 4 games in. I'd want to start the home opener than the regular season opener in Yankee Stadium. The home opener is when you really want to start, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, you're right. In front of your home fans. I mean, there's something to be said for being. Yeah, for the being the there's something to be said for being the opening day starter. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's whoever gets that nod is going to get that energy and is going to get that start of the season energy coming off of the division championship, obviously honoring Bob Uecker. There's going to be a lot of buzz and energy in that building. So whoever gets that, it might be a guy that Brewers fans are walking in saying, when did we sign him? Who is this guy? But hey, those guys have been really good for the Brewers in years past. So don't, Colin Ray, I mean, these types of guys, Bryce Wilson, like I mentioned, these guys can hold their own. So we'll see if it's the same this year.
Well, I know your busy time is coming up for all of us. Actually, we're all covering the team and all that, and you especially being out there every night. Hunter, we'll catch up with you maybe on an off day during the regular season once we get in the summer here. I'd love to catch up again.
Absolutely. Anytime. Thanks for having me.
Good stuff. Hunter Baumgardt. You follow him on Twitter, by the way. Hunter Bonaire, which is Hunter B on air. Hunter Bonaire. I didn't know he was French until he got his Twitter handle. But Hunter, we'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Yep, sounds good. Fly Hunter Bonaire today.
There we go. Yes, at airlines as well. Hunter Baumgardt, appreciate him taking some time out of his Wednesday to join us. He's a busy guy, as I said. That's going to do it for Locked On Brewers. You get us on Google, Spotify, Apple, wherever you download your podcast. We are there, all the audio platforms, #1 Brewers podcast on the internet. And of course, on YouTube, go Locked On Brewers on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. That'll alert you every time we drop an episode. Thanks for making us your first listen to. Chuck Freimund, Locked On Brewers, part of Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team every day.